Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Cool and composed here in the chamber. Tonight is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee. I'm Andrea Kelly, I'm the chair. With us here in the chamber, we have from Ward 2, Tariq Lucas. I'm from Ward 3, Randy Block from Ward 4, Julie Irish from Ward 5, Sean Roach from Ward 6, and Stephen Farrell from Ward 8. With us also in the chamber, we have our clerk, Curtis Bucher, and online, a lot of staff support. We have Sandria Berman from the Planning Department, Kat Kemet from the Planning Department. Zach Melcher, I believe, is going to be here, but I don't see him yet, but he may be, we'll see. I do see our new planning director, Catherine Fierick. Welcome to your first Land Use Committee meeting. So nice to see you again. And Kat, did I miss anyone? Oh, from the law department, we'll be having Andrew Lee advising us tonight. I think that's everyone. If other counselors come or if other staff join us, I will be sure to introduce and welcome them. We have dare I say, a shorter than usual agenda tonight. The first item, the petitioner has requested a continuance. So what we're going to do on this one is we're going to open the public hearing. We're not going to talk about it, and we'll hold it and take it back up at our August 25th meeting. And that is item number 225-26, which is a request to allow a 4-story building with 48 feet in height and associated dimensional and parking waivers at 74 Needham Street. That's in Ward 5. So perhaps Councillor Irish would just like to make a motion to hold.
Actually, I think
That's
it's
all you have to do.
Yeah, no, I thought there was some word 8, but anyway, motion to.
It says 5. I'm going to believe them. So you're just going to make a motion to hold?
Yes. Motion to hold.
And keep the public hearing
And
open.
motion to keep the public hearing open.
We're opening the public hearing. Motion to hold, seconded. All in favor of keeping the public hearing open, say aye. Aye. And I think we can do a voice vote on the hold also. All in favor of holding this item, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? There we go. We'll see them back here August 25th. The next item is number 226-26, which is a request to exceed FAR at 43 Newell Road. First, we'll hear from the planning department, which I thought was going to be Zach, but perhaps it's somebody else. Is that you, Kat? Is that why you're nodding?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this would otherwise be Zach. Something unexpected came up, so I'm going to step in for him.
Great. Thank you and welcome.
So let me share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that. Let me know if not. But good evening, everyone. My name is Kat Kemet. I am the Chief Planner for Current Planning. Our Senior Planner, Zach Melcher, prepared the materials for this petition and created the memo for this petition. Unfortunately, he can't be here tonight, so I'm going to step in. I'll do my best, but I do appreciate your patience. I'm a bit less familiar with the nuances of this project than he would be, so I might need to refer to plans if any more nuanced questions pop up, but you know, I think we can work through that together as necessary. But this is petition 226-26 for 43 Newell Road. This is a special permit request to exceed floor area ratio or FAR. This property is located in the single residence 3 district in Auburndale. There is a single family home on the property now that was constructed in 1905. The house has a few existing nonconformities that includes the front setback, the height, and the number of stories, which is 3.5 stories. The site has a gradual slope downward from the western side of the site to the eastern side. And the neighborhood is fairly residential in character, and the surrounding properties mostly consist of single and 2-family homes. The petitioner is proposing to construct rear and side additions to the existing single-family dwelling. The FAR will increase from 0.4 to 0.56, where 0.41 is the maximum allowed, requiring relief to exceed the allowable FAR. There's also an existing porte cochere on the side of the dwelling that will be replaced by an attached 2-car garage with a bedroom in the 2nd story. For criteria the council should consider, and these criteria are outlined in the zoning ordinance, is if the site is an appropriate location for the additions that exceed FAR, if the project will adversely affect the neighborhood, if there will be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, if access to the site is appropriate, and if the additions that exceed FAR are in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood. By way of analysis, overall, we have no major concerns to note here. While the project does need relief for floor area ratio, the proposed additions don't appear out of context with the scale and massing of the surrounding homes, so we think it's unlikely to have a strong negative impact on the neighborhood. Our historic preservation staff have reviewed the work and approved it as proposed. I did want to highlight that the front porch will be reconstructed, so it's altering the existing non-conforming front setback from 15.9 feet to 16.3. However, this is allowed by de minimis because it's within the existing footprint, so it doesn't need any additional relief, but it is a change we thought was worth noting. The existing non-conforming height will also change. It will increase from 38.07 feet to 38.44. No relief is needed for that either, and that's because alterations and additions to a building that already have a non-conforming height, which increase the height but don't extend above the roof peak, are also allowed by de minimis. So a couple of changes that are allowed by de minimis, they don't need relief, but we just wanted to highlight it if it wasn't evident from the plans. So I will stop sharing my screen, or I might not need to stop sharing it. Might be easier.
I'm going to guess that we'll want to come back to you because there was no site plan or elevation shown, so
So-
people don't know what they're looking at yet. So if the petitioner doesn't have those to show, I'll probably come back and ask you to pull them up.
I can share them now. I just need to stop sharing the presentation in order to pull up other plans.
Thank
So
you.
would
Why
you
don't
like
you
to
do that?
that?
Great.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
This is the proposed site plan. So you'll see here the garage and the deck and the addition at the rear. And these are the elevations. This is the front elevation. This is the left side. The front and the right side.
Thank you. And if the petitioner wants to expand on any of that, that's certainly their prerogative. I'm going to go to them next. Thank you, Ms. Kemet. Are the owners or petitioners here, either in the chamber or on Zoom, to talk to this project? Wang, I think that might be you. Did you unmute him?
Yep, there it is.
There we go. Welcome.
Yeah, that's us. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Wang, and this is my wife,
I'm Yim.
Yim. And yeah, we're the owner of 43 Newell Road. We'll be representing ourselves, and we've been at the house for 19 years.
Do you have a presentation you want to show us?
Yes, I do have a presentation. Let me adjust my screen and share, but it's some of it has already been shared. So let me.
Feel free to expand upon that if there are things that you want to point out that we're not aware of
sure.
so far.
Let me share. Give me a second. Share. Yeah, I know. Share. What am I sharing? This one. Okay. Share. Let me know if you can see.
Something is coming. Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this is, again, I'm Wang, this is Yim, and we have a family of 3 kids, all college age about and above. We've been here at 43 Newell Road for 19 years. So the goals for this remodeling is couple-fold. One is we want to, we decided to kind of stay in this home. So we want to age in place. So that's kind of the reason for the bedroom on the first floor. The second goal, which is probably the most important goal for us, is we have a special needs son, and we're working toward independent living skills with him. And that's the bedroom above the 2-car garage, right? So that's kind of the most important goal for us. And then another goal for us is that my in-laws, her parents are aging. They're approaching 80. And we want to have the option that if one or both of them want to move in, it's available. And then fourth is general home improvement. The home really needs some updates. It's kind of dated and needs significant improvements. So those are the reasons. So as discussed, the plan is to demolish the existing garage and the carport, and we'll demolish part of the rear where there's a kind of a laundry room and a bathroom, and we'll put the first floor bedroom here, and then there will be a deck right here. And so the 2-car garage will be attached to the home approximately here, where right beyond this bay window here. Hopefully everyone can see. And it'll be attached to the house, and there'll be a mud room that's there'll be allow access between the garage and the house. And then the second floor bedroom will attach to the second floor. So and then, as I said, the existing kitchen will be extended, and the first floor bedroom and bath will be located here. And then there'll also be a deck. Some of the things I didn't talk about is that we'll rebuild all the retaining walls, and we'll have a new retaining wall on the right side of the house, where basically a lot of stuff is going over to my neighbor. So this is kind of the picture of the existing house. And this is, I think these pictures are already shown by Kat here. This is a front view where there's a 2-car garage, entrance into the mudroom area, and then the bedroom planned for my son. And then from there, you can directly go into the second floor. And then this is a side view of it, where you can see in the back, this is kind of the bedroom leading to the deck. And this is a rear view, where this is kind of the sliding door from the expanded kitchen onto the deck. And this is the bedroom on the first floor. And the right side of the house, there's no change, basically. So the only thing I want to point out is that we're requesting an FAR, and the FAR is increased by 1,712 feet. And most of that is actually all in the basement that we have, because that basement is counted as a first floor due to the regulations. And if you actually take out the basement, we would fall under the FAR. And so we have no plans on doing anything on the basement in the existing and the new, other than storage. And I have a few photos here of the existing basement, right? It's basically a few stone foundation. It's totally unfinished, and the height is actually pretty low. So it's not really a livable space by what I consider. So, and so I think some of the benefits that to this remodeling will be, we'll be rebuilding all the crumbling retaining walls. We'll have new roofing and siding. So it'll improve the aesthetics all around for the home. It'll improve the drainage of the house. Currently, the drainage kind of all goes to the rear of the house. So we've added several drains where it'll kind of split from the front to the rear. So I think we'll improve the drainage. And we're also planning on replacing kind of the windows to be more energy efficient. And we're hoping that when we rebuild the back of the house, which is extremely leaky now, that it will improve the insulation in the home. And we'll have to install a new heating and cooling system that'll be much more energy efficient. So I think those are kind of the benefits to this project. So that's kind of my presentation.
Thank you. Before I move on to any input from the public, let us ask you, did you reach out to your neighbors and have you heard from them? We have not seen any letters, pro or
Yeah.
con with this, so I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
so I reached out to approximately 10 neighbors. So I actually took a little snipping shot that I'll share here. Oh, sorry. So this is my house. So this neighbor to the left here is they own the house. They're kind of older. They live on the second floor. I've tried to ring on their doorbell multiple times. They just don't come downstairs, and I haven't really talked to them. And they don't have internet access. This house back here is their brother's house, and I talked to him, and he has no problems. And he said, there's no reason to talk to his sister. They won't answer the doorbell, and they're really not reachable. I talked to this family here. I think these are kind of rentals here. I talked to this family here. I've talked to the Dreslers across the street. I've talked to this is Debbie. We talked to them. This is Sloan and their family. We talked to them. Everyone's been positive. Our next door neighbor, I talked to him before the actual meeting got scheduled, and I told them about it. But they've been in Maine the whole summer. I haven't seen them since. So I did talk to them. I updated them, but they don't have the actual drawings, for example, and so forth. I talked to Dominic here. These are rentals. And I talked to, I think, David here. And I know them, but I wasn't able to catch Eric here. So I've talked to a lot. And then one of the neighbors came over and talked to us and showed their support. She lives over here. So I haven't talked to everyone, but I've talked to some.
That's good to hear. We always like to hear that. Not that you're ever going to do this again, but it's helpful for us if people will either, sign a letter, a petition, or send an email. So we have a record of people's support. I believe you that most of them were supportive, and I am glad to hear that you reached out to almost a dozen of them. So thanks for letting us know that.
Sure.
I'm going to go to the public hearing part of this, but before I do, I want to welcome a few other colleague counselors who have joined us. Here in the chamber is my Ward 3 colleague, Julia Maliki, and our other Ward 3 colleague, Pam Wright, is on Zoom. So we're all of us from Ward 3 are here. Council President John Oliver has joined us remotely, and Councilor Susan Albright has joined us remotely. So lots of interest in tonight's meeting. Let me ask now if there are any members of the public who would like to speak or ask questions, either in the chamber if you're here for this project or on Zoom if you are. You can raise your virtual hand if you know how to do that, or wave at us on the screen and we'll try and choose you. I don't see anybody, in which case we're going to take this into committee for discussion. Any Land Use Committee members like to speak or ask questions on this? It's very quiet here. Councilor Roach.
Good evening. Thank you. First, because I'm legally obligated to say it, I think you should have the mudroom portion of this by right. Second, I have a question for you, which is the space that you've designed over the garage for your son is essentially an internal accessory dwelling unit. Why is it that you didn't proceed as an accessory dwelling unit?
So I think we didn't think about it in the beginning, first of all. And right now we don't have a stove there because I don't trust him with a stove. So maybe that's why. And we really wanted him to feel like, we're not forcing him to go there, right? We want him to feel like, oh, this is just an extension of the house. You can still, access the house. It's just please, see if you can, live alone, take your time, learn how to clean and things like that.
Yeah, we want him to feel part of the family, and that's why we don't want to be suffocate him to a different buildings likewise, like he would think that way. So that's our intention, just to.
So it's more
Okay.
like a bedroom addition than an accessory dwelling unit because there's not a functional kitchen.
Yeah, so there's a little sink there, right? There's a little sink there. We'll be able to put a little refrigerator there, but there's not going to be a stove. I mean, I don't think he's at the stage yet where we're comfortable with him cooking by himself on a stove, right? He'll probably have like a little microwave for his frozen foods and things like that.
Thank you. Counselor Roach, you
Thank
still
you
have
very
the
much. That's
floor.
a good, that's a
Sure.
good answer. I'm not normally predisposed to for special permit applications that so increase the floor area ratio. But I think that the two use cases, the needs that your son has and a true multi-generational living with the first floor bedroom suite, I'm inclined to vote yes. So thank you very much for bringing this.
Thank you, Counselor Roach. Counselor Block.
Thank you, Chair.
You're not on.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Couldn't hear for myself for a second. The Wangs have developed, I think, a very attractive addition to their house, addition and renovation. I visited this site. I know this street very well, and their house currently fits in very well with the streetscape. And I think this redesigned house has been done very sensitively. And I fully support this project. And I'm willing to make a motion, close the public hearing, and to approve this at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Counselor Block. Before we vote on those, let's see if anyone else has something to say. Counselor Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think this is a fine project. The relief is minimal, only asking for relief for FAR. The family's going to stay in a house, looking to age in place. So I'll also be voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Lucas. Counselor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I am going to bring as close as I can to an unanimous yes. I think this is a great project. We were out there this afternoon and talked with Wong, and the new home will not overwhelm the neighborhood. It fits right in. And so I'm in favor of this project also.
Thank you, Counselor Farrell. I just have a quick question for you. On the walls that you're rebuilding, do you know the heights of them? I couldn't see on the plan.
Yeah, so they are all below the 4 feet requirement. I think it's mentioned in the memo that I think Zach had created.
Great. I just wanted to ask you out loud. Sometimes I ask questions I know the answer to because I want everyone else to be familiar
problem.
with the situation. I don't see any other hands up. We have a motion on the floor. The first is to close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Public hearing is closed. The next motion is to approve this project. So let's take a look at the findings and conditions. Ms. Kemet.
I will share that momentarily. Hopefully that should be visible to all.
Yes, thank you.
So, great. For findings, we have 1, the site is an appropriate location for the additions, resulting in a floor area ratio of 0.56 because the dwelling is at a scale that blends with the existing neighborhood. 2, the additions which exceed FAR will not adversely affect the neighborhood because the proposal complies with applicable dimensional requirements such as lot coverage, open space, and facade ratio. The existing nonconforming height and front setback will change slightly, but are considered de minimis. 3, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because the project utilizes the existing driveway and the proposal includes an attached garage providing sufficient parking on site. 4, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. And 5, the additions which exceed FAR are not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood and are similar in scale to the existing homes nearby. For conditions, we have our standard referencing conditions here, number 1, standard building permit conditions in number 2, where we will review everything to make sure it conforms with what was approved here when it comes to the building permit. And 3, standard conditions for occupancy, where we will review again what was built against what was approved and make sure it all conforms with what was approved. So pretty standard conditions here. And that is all I have for that.
Thank you, Ms. Kemet. Without any further questions, I see no hands raised. We can take a vote.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Irish,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Roach,
Aye.
and Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Full speed ahead. Thanks for coming. It'll be a nice
Thank you very
project.
much.
The second and last item we have as a special permit request tonight is number 207-26, which is a request to exceed FAR and to allow a detached ADU with reduced setbacks and oversized dormers at 2 Rose Street.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Berman. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see my screen, and I'll make this a little bit bigger
Yes,
so
we can.
you can see. Excellent. All right, so we have here, Sandria Berman, Deputy Planner for Current Planning. We have here petition 207-26, and as you'll recall, this was continued from June 16th, 2026, and it is a special permit site plan approval to construct a detached accessory building with a 2-car garage and an ADU above with relief to exceed FAR, reduce side and rear setbacks for the detached ADU, to allow oversized dormers, and to allow dormers within 3 feet of a wall plane intersection. In terms of just the site itself, you'll see here from the aerial map that the property consists of an irregular shaped 7,570 square foot corner lot in the Auburndale neighborhood, just north of Route 90, the Mass Pike. The site is located in a single residence 3 district, and it is improved with a 2.5-story single family dwelling that was constructed circa 1880. The surrounding neighborhood is within the single residence 3 district and consists of primarily single and 2-family residential uses, and the topography of the site is primarily level. In terms of the zoning relief, again, to construct this 1.5-story detached accessory building, the project does require relief for the side and rear setbacks to the detached ADU, to exceed FAR, to allow oversized dormers, and to allow dormers within 3 feet of a wall plane intersection. In terms of the criteria, we've broken it up here just to show you that we have the standard 4 special permit criteria here for the proposed ADU. We have the FAR criteria, the proposed FAR of 0.58, where 0.57 is the maximum allowed as of right, is consistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood. And finally, relief for those side and rear setbacks of the ADU, that the size and location of the accessory dwelling unit is appropriate for the lot, that the accessory dwelling unit is adequately screened, and that the exterior alterations complement the principal dwelling. In terms of project updates since the June 16th, 2026 public hearing, you'll see here that we have updated site plans, updated architectural plan set, an FAR worksheet, as well as a landscaping screening narrative. Although all the plans have been updated, the relief has remained consistent, and the only substantial change is to the footprint of this proposed accessory building, which has been moved further from the rear lot line, proposing a 2.5-foot rear setback as compared to the original plan that proposed a 1-foot reduced rear setback. And there is also the addition of an exterior spiral staircase to the dwelling, which addressed the second means of egress for the ADU. In terms of the planning's analysis, planning believes that the site is an appropriate location for the proposed 1.5-story detached accessory building comprised of a 2-car garage and ADU above, as it is located at the rear of the dwelling and is subordinate to the 2.5-story principal dwelling. The proposed 358 square foot ADU is also well within the maximum 1,000 square feet allowed by right, and the exterior design complements the primary dwelling. The requested relief for oversized dormers on both the north and south elevations enable increased floor area in the half story for the ADU without exceeding the maximum number of stories or the maximum square footage allowed for an ADU by right. While the proposed FAR of 0.58 does exceed both the existing FAR of 0.46 and the maximum as of right FAR of 0.47, the additional floor area includes the beneficial addition of another housing unit on site. And finally, planning does note that the proposed location of the detached ADU on the lot is particularly close to the rear and side abutters, proposing a 2.5-foot rear setback and a 0.6-foot setback to the side abutter. And this does limit the area available for landscape screening surrounding the proposed ADU. Planning does recommend a little bit more discussion with the petitioner regarding the details for proposed landscape screening, fencing, and privacy considerations for abutters. This is just the plan reference slide that will be available with this presentation for anyone at home that would like to reference this for any of the plans that we're going to show tonight. I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing my screen for one moment just so I can pull up the plans and I can just go over them quickly.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Great. So we will begin with the site plan that we have here, and I hope folks can see this fairly well. This is the proposed site plan. We have the existing primary dwelling right in the center of the lot. We have Rose Street here, and we have Auburndale Avenue here. This is the corner lot. And we have the proposed ADU down here in the corner of the site. I was going to say the 0.6-foot setback for the side abutter, you'll see right here, and the 2.5-foot rear setback is right here. And these are the 2 points of dimensional relief for the ADU that the petition is seeking. And they did also add this spiral staircase that you'll notice here on the side. And hopefully I can go ahead and might have to, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing just one more time because I want to pull up the architectural plans for you. Alrighty. Okay, thank you for your patience. So we have here the west elevation, which is facing the entrance of the garage. And you'll see here that the dormer that's just above the entrance to the garage is 73% of the width of the roof plane, which does require relief as dormers have a maximum 50% allowed. Scroll down here. We have the side north elevation. This is not facing an abutter, but facing the interior of the lot with the spiral staircase. We have the eastern elevation here, which is the rear of the ADU. This faces the rear of the property as well as an abutter. And we see here an oversized dormer that spans a majority of the roof. This is 88% of the total roof line, where again, 50% is the maximum allowed, which they will need relief for. And this dormer in particular also requires relief as it extends to the outer edge of the roof plane and does not meet a 3-foot minimum on the right side here, which is required for the vertical plane intersection. And finally, we have the side abutter. Again, this facade faces the side abutter. This is the south elevation. And you'll notice that both this elevation on the side, the south elevation and also the rear elevation that both face abutters, there's no fenestration on the sides of these sides of the ADU. And with that, I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I'm happy to pull these plans up if we need them moving forward, but I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Berman. Are the owners or somebody on behalf of the owners, either in the chamber or online, to present?
Good
more on this?
evening.
Oh, are you the owners?
I'm the project manager from Sam Kashmar Architects.
We'll have her do it. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Mello.
Thank you everyone for your time this evening. I'm also here with the owners who are present in person in the room. I would like to share my screen and provide you additional information. Thank you, Sandra, for your presentation. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see the floor plans.
Yes,
pull up.
it's up. Yep.
All right, I would like to highlight that some of the primary goals for Trank and Andrew for the development of this new ADU is to provide auxiliary living space for their growing family and for extended period of estate visits, and also for elderly parents to be able to use the space. In this slide, I wanted to show you the existing photo of the front of the house and a proposed render of the ADU in the rear of the lot. Looking it from an area plan, we are working with a very irregular shaped lot, which presented multiple constraints, allowing us to design something that can be fully within by right conditions, which brings us tonight to request relief for the setbacks. Looking at our area plans and calculations, we look into keeping in mind when designing this ADU, the architectural features of the primary home and the scale of it, looking to keep it below the 1.5 story, understanding the proximity to the property lines. As you can see in these area plans, the square footage for the ADU is just 358 square feet, which is pretty minimal compared to the maximum allowed. And in this first floor plan, I would like to highlight the setbacks from the primary residence and the setbacks from the rear and the side yard setbacks in efforts to set back the footprint of the ADU from the rear of the property as much as possible. We look into additional architectural features that matches the primary home as introducing these angled walls in order to be able to push the ADU further into the front of the lot while still providing the clients with a functional space for the ADU above. On the second floor, I would like to highlight the program of this ADU, which is an open concept layout that provides sleeping area, living space, and a small kitchenette with a cooktop and a full bathroom. Again, with the concept and idea to keep this ADU within the 1.5 story structure, we look into introducing dormers to make sure that we were providing enough functional space for the ADU. And then in this floor plan, we're highlighting the roof plane cut at 7 feet, highlighting the calculations for the amount of square footage accounted for the ADU. This is a floor plan of our roof planes. And as presented previously, our front elevation, side elevation with setbacks from the primary home, rear yard setback elevation, and side elevation where we're requesting relief for 0.7. I would like to highlight that owners did reach out to neighbors at the beginning and during the process of the design of the project to understand any concerns or gather any feedback within the proposed design. Owners were able to gather a couple letters of support across neighbors and abutters, and those should be all registered in the portal under our application. And at this point, I would like to be open to any questions that you may have for the architectural team.
Okay, thank you. We'll probably come back to you on that. The order we do here is now I'm going to take input from the public. If there's anybody from the public who would like to ask questions or make a comment, and then we'll take it into committee and there may be some questions or comments for you or the owners.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public want to speak to this? Yes, sir. Would you like to come up and to this microphone right there? Oh, you need to go, yeah, the back way. There's a little on-off switch at the base of that microphone. If you just turn that on. Oh, thank you, Anthony. Give us your name and address. Thank you very much, Commissioner. He's a good tech aide.
Yes, so we were looking at the plans that were
Can you just
online.
give us your name and address?
Oh, Yep, my name is Severio Rata. I am the nephew of Katharina Plati, 42 Prairie Ave. The garage will be built basically, the backyard of my aunt is basically going to be in the view of the back of the garage. So that's where basically it's going to be built. Looking online at the plans, a couple concerns, right? One is, we couldn't really, it seems like what was presented may be a little different than what was online, because what I saw online said that it was like 1 foot, like right at the corner of where the garage ends at the 21-foot point. And I think you said it was 2.5, or I might be misunderstanding that, but online, the plan said that it was 1 foot. The other thing is she's had construction done by another neighbor next door at one time where they had built another garage that basically blocked her view in the kitchen. So now her kitchen seems like it's nighttime, there all the time. The other problem that happened was when the rain came off the roof, it all ended up in her basement. So what the concerns we have is, number one is I'm looking at the pitch of the roof, and it does appear that the roof line will pitch back into the drainage will be in probably in her property again, which again will increase the water level in the ground. So the increase in water level could potentially, I'm not saying it will, but it could potentially end up in the basement. The other thing is that there's a tree that is not talked about here that they want to remove in order to build. That tree partially belongs to my aunt, because if you look at it, it crosses right through the property line. So it's partially her tree, which means potentially, I think the rules are that it cannot be removed unless she approves. And because it would be part of a building construction, it would require a special permit to remove that tree. So, the concerns are basically the blockage of the view, because it's going to be fairly tall. I think I saw in the paperwork, the roof was going to be 22, but I think you just presented it was going to be 28. So that was like an inconsistent number that I could be wrong, but I can't see the screen from where I'm sitting. So, but I'm just listening. But I do have downloaded the actual plan that was online. So those are basically the concerns. Basically, it's going to be a view obstruction, and it is going to be closer to the property line is what we'd like it to be, and the drainage.
Perfect timing. I think we'll try and get answers to some of those questions either from their architect or from planning before we take it into committee. But Councilor Roach?
Real quick, there are multiple sets of architectural plans, and I believe this gentleman may not have seen the most recent online.
Yes, that's why I'm thinking that planning and their architect can settle some of those things, because at one point, sir, for your aunt's sake too, there was a 1 foot setback that they increased to 2.5. Ms. Berman, would you like to try and address some of these from your understanding dimensionally? And perhaps the
Yes.
owners might want to address the runoff thing.
Yes, thank you,
Yes,
Madam
go ahead.
Chair. I do believe the plans that may have been referenced were the original plans that were submitted. And since the June 16th meeting, they did upload new site plans and architectural plans. On the original site plans, there was a proposed 1-foot setback. That may be what the gentleman was referencing. But now the setback has been increased to 2.5 feet. And in terms of the height of the proposed accessory dwelling, it is 21 feet. I'm not sure where the 28 feet may have come from, but it is in fact, I believe, 21 feet, and Ms. Mello can confirm that. With respect to drainage, my understanding is that all projects need to comply with the stormwater ordinance, which I believe requires that that no drainage can fall onto an abutting property. And finally, with respect to the tree, that would be something that the tree warden would review. Again, all development projects need a tree permit, so that would be subject to the tree warden. But I'll defer to Ms. Mello if she has any additional comments.
Thank you.
Yes, would you like to address some of those questions?
Yes, I would like to know that we hear the neighbors' concern, and I wanted to point out that the reduction of the setback is in fact after learning that there were concern about the proximity of the building. We were initially working under the consideration that there was a conversation with the neighbor on the rear and that the design was looking in a direction that was acceptable. However, when we learned that it was a concern from the neighbor, we worked into updating the plans to increase that setback. That's where we're highlighting the change of the angle walls at the front of the house in order to allow us to push the building forward into or closer to the primary home while still keeping the 5-foot setback. In terms of the roof line and drainage, we had worked with a civil engineer to create stormwater management plans to ensure that all water on those roofs get diverted to a dry well system. So we're going to be having downspouts in both of the elevations on the front and the rear. And we have updated or uploaded design for that stormwater management to the portal.
Thank you. So basically what you're hearing is that it's illegal to have water from this site go onto yours. So between the stormwater system and the review by engineering, they should take care of that. The tree will be under the tree ordinance. We'll have a counselor probably speaking to that in a minute. I do think that the setbacks are very tight and the view will be tough. But those are so far the answers we have to some of your questions. Did you folks want to speak to this or not? You don't have to, but you can come to the microphone if you'd like. These are the owners right here.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and good to see you again. I know we kind of, oh, sorry.
He's
yeah,
Paul.
thank you for your time. Good to see you guys again. I know we didn't get a chance to discuss this at the last meeting. I'm Andrew. This is my wife, Trang. We moved into this property about 3 years ago. Trang grew up in Newton, and that's really what brought us back to set roots here. We have a growing family, 2-year-old son, or almost 2 years old, and plan to expand that. We also are dealing with a bit of a sandwich generation situation where we've got aging parents. So this project is entirely to give us optionality to just stay in this house for as long as we want, to grow old in this house. Yeah, beyond that, we've spoken with the abutters and other neighbors, other members of the community, and have near unanimous support. Unfortunately, I think there was some miscommunication with Ms. Plati over here, which we've tried to address since our last submission by increasing the setbacks, removing the windows, and we're very flexible on screening on whatever would be most preferable to both abutters where this would be close to them.
Yeah, while you're at the microphone, so you don't have to sit down and come back up, I'd like to just follow up on that part of it. Where do you stand with negotiations with neighbors for screening, planting, fencing, because there's not a lot of room? Have you talked to the ones who are most concerned and you feel like you're going to be able to make progress? And are you Are you planting on their sides of the property or just talk a little about that?
Yeah, the direct.
Into the microphone, please.
direct adjacent neighbors that are on the Rose Street side we spoke to, and they've just been completely supportive and said they have no preference. We worked with the architect when we first moved into, or sorry, the landscape architect, when we first moved in to align with the Sequists who are adjacent to us on the Auburndale side to make sure that the fence and plantings aligned with sort of their aesthetics. And then again, the neighbors on Rose Street have been where we have a good relationship with them. And so they've just been supportive in general. We're happy to put anything in. They don't care. That's what they've said. We wanted to work with them to just put something that they would like, but they said that they're happy with our current design. And originally when we thought that it was even closer than the 6 inches, they were still supportive of it. What was that?
Still 6 inches.
Sorry, yeah. When they thought it was less than that, they were still supportive. And we've pictures over to Rena. So initially, that was on me with the miscommunication. I brought the iPad over to show the original renderings. And so the original screening that was in the first design was based on our communication of her preferences of not wanting big trees and not wanting it overdone. So that's what that initial screening design was. We have no strong preference and just will be happy to do whatever the abutting neighbors want in terms of fencing, screening, plants, et cetera.
Okay, thanks very much. I do see another member of the public whose hand is up who'd like to speak. Mia Silva. Just one moment and we'll give you the unmute. There you
Hi,
go.
okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yes, when I spoke to Randy, I believe it might have been Thursday night, in regards to this meeting, he made mention to me that the lot, there is basically like a 2.5 to a 3 foot drop that goes, my aunt is Katerina Plati, the abutting neighbor in the back, who we're talking about.
And what's your address, Mia?
I live at 27 Lyman Road in Framingham.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And when I spoke to Randy the other night, we just did have some concerns because there is a drop, which means that if they are building a 21-foot structure, which technically would be from the footing all the way up to the roof line, would that not make it 24 feet for Katerina?
Ms. Berman, how does that get calculated? In terms
So
of
if-
the grading and the height?
Sure. So we calculate the height of the structure based on the average grade, which is the measurement. I believe it's 4 to 6 feet out from the structure itself. And we would take the measurement from the lowest grade, whether that was the existing grade or whether that's the proposed grade. And so that would measure the height of the structure itself. So the height,
So
I
where-
believe. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. So where she's looking out her window, right, there's going to be a drop from her lawn to this structure. Correct? Do you get what I'm saying? So you're building it on the grade that you're taking, but there is a 3-foot drop for
Correct.
the abutting neighbor. So in her eyes, that's going to look actually 3 feet taller.
It could for an abutting property, depending on from where you're standing off-site. It could appear taller depending on the grade of her site. Unfortunately, I don't have the topography or the elevations of her property, so I can't confirm if that's true or not.
I see
Okay.
Ms. Mello has her hand up. She might want to weigh in on this. Ms. Mello?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the average plan has been calculated based on existing conditions, and that the height is based on that height. The drop starts after the property line. And if we look at the site plan, based on the irregularity of the site plan, it's not the entire elevation that would be as close to the property line. Given how it angles, the farther the wall goes, the farther the property or the structure is from the property line.
Is that answering your question, Ms. Silva?
Yes. but technically it still would be 3 feet higher from her view, from her yard.
Ms. Mello?
I guess her concern is that she's feeling closed in between the project that went on next door that's pretty much right a foot away from her property line to now this structure going on. We understand her concerns because she is feeling closed in.
Okay. We hear you.
Okay.
It needs to be within the required criteria and dimensions that are allowed. So, but we hear that she's feeling closed in and her views are being blocked. I think we're hearing that, the owners are hearing that. They seem to be nodding compassionately, not sure what will be done. But I did see that they took windows off of 2 sides that might have been intrusive to close by neighbors of looking into each other's houses. On the other hand, as you pointed out, sort of like looking at a blank wall isn't that appealing either from her kitchen. So we hear you. Anything else, Ms. Silva? Okay, thank you. Let's see, any other members of the public? I don't see any other hands. We're going to take this into committee, and we have also another counselor who's not in committee but who wants to speak. So first I'll go to Counselor Block. You've been referenced tonight.
Yes, I have. Thank you, Chair. I have visited this site a few times. I'd like to reference the planning memo, which I think has been summarized before, but just to set the stage for this discussion, and I'm quoting on page 3, planning notes that the proposed location of the detached ADU on the lot is particularly close to the rear and side abutters, proposing a 2.5-foot setback to the eastern abutter in the rear and a 0.6-foot setback to the southern abutter on the side, limiting area available for landscape screening surrounding the proposed ADU. Planning recommends further discussion with the petitioner regarding the details for proposed landscape screening, fencing, and privacy considerations for abutters. End quote. So the planning, I'd like someone in the planning department to address this recommendation which they're making. The recommendation for further discussion with petitioner. Who are you recommending have this further discussion?
Ms. Bowman?
Planning.
Go ahead,
Thank
Ms.
you,
Berman.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Block, for your question. In discussions that planning had with the petitioner, it seemed as though there was an active discussion between the petitioner and the side and rear abutters in terms of proposed landscaping. As I believe the petitioner shared tonight, they are amenable to installing landscaping or fencing or other privacy screening materials that would be preferred by either the side abutter or the rear abutter. And so for my memo, I didn't want to lock them into anything. I felt that they would be able to best articulate what it was that they were going to propose. And also if any conclusions had been reached with the rear abutter, I wanted them to be able to share those at tonight's meeting.
So were you informed about the discussions that had already happened between the petitioner and the various abutters?
I was
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was not privy to the particulars of the discussions. My understanding was that the discussions were ongoing with abutters regarding landscape screening. There was a landscaping narrative that was provided by the petitioner. It was dated 7/20/2026, where they articulated that they were open to, landscape screening for the rear abutter or other types of screening that would be preferable to abutters.
Wasn't there a statement in the architectural plans that there wasn't room for landscaping because of the closeness of the property lines? Didn't you read that to us, or someone read that to us? today? No?
I stated that that was my perception.
That was your perception, but well,
I didn't hear it, but let me make a suggestion here. I think we all would have preferred if you had come to resolution and actually had a plan that would address this issue, and that would be part of what was voted on tonight, but it doesn't sound like you're there. So Ms. Berman, I wonder if we could be thinking about a condition that might lead to some happy, that's enforceable, that is visual, that we could add on at the end, and for Counselor Block to be thinking about that too. Sir, you want to speak to this again?
I think I was going to say the same thing as you. We had a discussion with Patty after the June 16th hearing. It wasn't productive. We would be happy to re-engage and on the screening topic. But I think we just weren't able to get there around specifics.
Well, you've had 6 weeks.
I know.
It would have been better to come back with a plan that you had agreed on with your neighbors, that the planning department could have reviewed, that this committee felt comfortable with. But if not, let's see if we can put some terminology into it, because I don't know if people want this voted down tonight because you don't have that. But I understand that Counselor Block is concerned, and that's why I asked you that question while you were first up here too. I could see that this was going to be an area that might be a little sticky. Go ahead, Counselor Block, you still have the floor.
thank you. I would just like to underscore the last concern in the planning department's memo, the privacy considerations of the abutters. So this isn't just about the tree, the landscaping, the fencing. I mean, it's fine that those should be listed as concerns that need discussion. I'm interested in general from the planning department, its reaction to these setback metrics. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a proposal that is 0.6 feet from a property line. Maybe we've seen some that are 2.5 feet from the rear property line. And I understand that the abutter adjacent to this property, the 0.6 foot, I guess that's about 7 inches, supports this project. But I think just from a general perspective about considering things in the longer term, how often has this kind of metric been something that you've seen and that you've recommended? Can you put this in some context for us?
Ms. Berman, I think that's headed back in your direction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, the setback relief that's being requested is specific to the ADU. And in the zoning ordinance, you're allowed to seek that reduced setback relief per special permit. If it were to meet the setback requirements for the detached ADU of 1.5 stories and a maximum of 22 feet in height, the setback that they would have to meet would be 5 feet for the side and 5 feet for the rear. So they are seeking that reduction, as you noted. It is a pathway in the zoning ordinance to seek special permit relief for a reduction. Based on my limited experience, this is the first time that I've seen relief for reduced setbacks for a detached ADU. And I think, as you noted, the side setback is 0.6 feet. It's very close. However, part of the criteria to allow for that relief is to consider what petitioners will do to mitigate for privacy and screening concerns for abutters. And then I think from there, it's up to the council to see if those mitigations sort of offset the request for relief.
Those are the only questions I have. Thank you, Chair.
We'll probably be coming back to you. Are there other questions from the committee? Counselor Roach?
I have one question, and that is, it's going to take me a second. I'm going to try to describe it. There's an area of the lot that is larger and kind of along Auburndale Avenue, which would require less in the way of setback relief. Is there any reason why you didn't use that area of the lot to build the ADU?
Ms. Mello?
Hi, thank you for your question. We thought that the location for the ADU on the rear will be less minimally visible from the street, and that it felt proper for the condition and the scale of the house to feel as an extension of the home, following the architectural features and the scale. So those were the design criteria that we follow.
Okay, so it strikes me that there, if you took the footprint of the ADU and moved it into another area of the lot, you would not have these setback issues. And the setback issues are where and they're not particularly compelling reasons to me why you didn't do that, given the fact that you need such dramatic relief. So that's number one. Number two, if privacy requires, or a need for privacy or a sense of a need for privacy requires two blank walls in a neighborhood, I feel like it kind of says the game, it gives the game away. It's I think in the long term, if you look around Newton, the historic homes we have at large scale and small scale, they have fenestration around the entire building, and the need and the sense that there's a need to have blank walls strikes me as a failure of the design, and possibly a failure of our criteria, because I think we have an overweening mandate on privacy when I think community suggests that there are ways of having light come into a home and breaking up a blank wall that can be where privacy can be addressed. My neighbor and I on both sides are very close. We have windows on both sides. And I think that does cause damage to the neighborhood fabric. And, you know, to echo Chair Kelly, you know, the fact that the petitioner, the fact that the abutter is here represented by both a nephew and a niece, and you had 6 weeks to resolve this, strikes me as a failure of process. So I would love to support an ADU on this site, but this does not feel to me like the right ADU.
Thank you, Councilor Roach. Councilor Lucas?
Thank you, Chair. So I'll try to be brief on this. We have approved or recommended for approval non-conforming ADUs in the past. So I am supportive of that. It's just the setbacks that were raised by Councilors Block and Roach that I find kind of troubling right now. 2.5 feet and 0.6 feet seems too small of a setback, even with relief. I was looking at the site plan and I saw all that open space near the other corner, I guess you could say, of the lot. Councilor Roach just mentioned that. Maybe that is the best spot for the ADU, because 0.6 and 2.5 feet is just too small in the rear and it's too close to the abutter's home. So that is my advice for this particular petition. But overall, I'm generally supportive of non-conforming ADUs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Lucas. Councilor Farrell? Maliki, I'm calling on you as soon as there's an opening. Out of committee.
To make it truly brief, I guess I agree with the previous speakers. I think 0.6 is just too little. Non-conforming ADU is fine. I guess I'd ask the architect and the family whether or not it needs to be a garage, whether you can have a much smaller two-story ADU and significantly close it. I agree, the blank walls bother me significantly. But it's really, the setbacks are just too little, absolutely too little, for my way of thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Farrell. Counselor Irish.
And I'm going to agree with my colleagues on this one, that it all for ADUs, and it feels like maybe the right building in the wrong place. And real concerns about any screening that would be effective. I'm having a difficult time trying to imagine what kind of screening would really allow for privacy given those tiny setbacks. So I too I'd be trouble supporting it with this at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Irish. Counselor Maliki. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. So I mainly want to talk about the tree, but let me talk about the setbacks too, because I think whether it's half a foot or 2.5 feet, that is an adverse impact on the abutter, whether the abutter, in this case, the side abutter, is willing to say so or not. I think we have to use kind of common sense and look at, as Councilor Block said, the long view. Any future owner of the next door property or the rear abutter property is going to be equally affected by the proximity of the building. And I don't think even, certainly with a half-foot setback and most likely with the 2.5-foot setback, I don't think you can even excavate for a foundation without going on to the next door neighbor's property. Okay, but I really wanted to talk about the tree because I noticed that before the nephew brought it up. To me, it actually, on the assessor's database, which is not maybe perfectly accurate, but to me, it looks like the tree originates on the rear abutter's property. But even if it is a shared tree straddling the property line, in Massachusetts, that's a joint owned tree. The tree warden does not have the power to tell someone they can cut down somebody else's tree or a tree that is partially owned by somebody else. You know, the applicant could sort of bribe or pay off somebody to allow them to cut down their tree at whatever expense the person demands. And on top of that, pay into the tree fund to replace the lost inches. But it sounds to me like the abutter wants to keep their tree. The construction under our tree ordinance, the neighbor has their right not to have their tree killed by the construction next door. So there should be a tree save area determined by an arborist that will be adequate to ensure that their tree does not die and have to be removed at their expense. And also, if the neighbor is worried about water in their basement from other stuff that's happened, losing a tree is only going to make that worse. And the applicant might be doing the required stormwater retention on their own property, but what happens on the abutter's property is going to be independent of that. So I'm wondering if either the clerk or the architect could pull up a site plan that shows the neighbor's tree, because I can't manage to pull it up on
Is
even
that
on
the tree
Wi-Fi.
right there we're looking at?
No, this is a photo of the tree right here.
Yeah, is
Here's the fence that
what
runs.
I was wondering if there was a site plan, perhaps if the and I can't get into NewGov even on Wi-Fi. So I'm wondering if the tree permit has been applied for. That should have a plan that shows the neighboring trees in relation to the building site plan. Does that exist, or is there a site plan in the special permit application that shows existing trees?
There's a site plan that shows this one tree.
Could you please identify yourself now that you're sharing your screen?
No problem. Sam Ketchmar from Sam Ketchmar Architects. I worked with Miss Mello on this project.
I think we met you last time.
Yeah,
Correct?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
You were the architect who came the first time who said you didn't need to provide a secondary means of egress, and I'm very happy to see that there is an exterior spiral stair to let people out in case of a fire on this one. So go ahead. I just wanted to know who was suddenly sharing a screen that we had not given permission to share a screen with.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I brought it up as the council was speaking about the tree and wanted to reference it. I thought it might be
But
helpful.
we just didn't know who you were because you hadn't identified yourself tonight yet. So go ahead, please.
Sam Ketchmar here from Sam Ketchmar Architects. Just to show the tree there, it is on our client's property with the fence kind of behind it there. Just that runs the edge of the property. It's certainly very close to the property line, but seems to exist solely upon one property and not two properties.
Did you have the property surveyed? So you're not just going by where the fence is, but there are survey stakes showing the location of that tree on your client's property.
Yes, and the survey plan is in the architectural set as well, which is available for any of the counselors' review.
Can we pull up the site plan?
I can have it pull up. This is Karina Mello from Sam Ketchmar Architects.
Let's enlarge it. Look at where we're looking.
So this is the area of the tree. Is it visible on the screen?
The little wavy outline is the tree,
Yeah,
that 18-inch maple.
correct.
Okay, I'm going by the assessor's database, and it looks like the tree is actually on the other side of the property line on the assessor's database. The neighbors here say it's a shared tree, so I'm wondering, can we get a sort of unbiased survey that establishes where the property line is?
Yes, sir. Go ahead again.
The drawing that we downloaded just before this meeting shows a different map, and it shows the tree. And I can bring it over to you. I have a screen capture. Shows the tree right between the two properties. On my phone.
What we would need would be surveys showing the property lines.
Basically, I have just whatever was on
Yeah.
the website.
There's perhaps your aunt's property which would have a survey, and these people who their architect says you just did have it resurveyed.
It was the project that we're talking about.
So sometimes there are disagreements, as Councilor Maliki is pointing out. Sometimes one neighbor thinks that's my tree and another neighbor thinks it's their tree. And what does need to happen is you need to have the two surveys and see if they agree. What I'm hearing though tonight is that this is something for you owners to think about. I guess let me just speak. Oh, are you all finished with what you wanted
Yeah,
to say?
I think so.
Yes?
Yeah.
Thank you. I really wanted to be in favor of this because I, like many of my colleagues, like ADUs. And this is a kind of a big but weirdly shaped lot. It's true. And I'm a site planner and I look at that big open space that Councilor Roach first pointed out. And I was hoping to have a better explanation for why the ADU was jammed into this little corner. Let me finish speaking if you don't mind. Thank you. And I will let you have a chance to come back. I was hoping for a really good reason to, as I call it, jam it into that corner. I didn't hear it. Many of my colleagues, many of whom disagree on lots of other things, are in agreement on this tonight from what I'm hearing. So the choices are, we could vote on this, but you can, I think, sense the way the vote will go, which isn't good. You have a choice to be able to withdraw without prejudice, which means you can take this project back, talk again with your architects, your landscape architects, a different site planner maybe if you're not happy with this one, or if you want to answer why you did put it in that little corner, do that. But you have that choice tonight. We will vote on it. The sense I'm getting is the vote will be a denial, and that's not something you probably want. But you can withdraw without prejudice if you think you can rethink, it seems to me, the siting, the location, the setbacks, maybe the size of the ADU. That's something for you folks to think about and decide soon. Did you want to say something about the location of this ADU when you were shaking your head very violently? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Train.
appreciate all of the concerns. The reason we didn't put it there is because it's on where the yard is currently, it's on Auburndale Ave. And honestly, there've been a lot of accidents in that intersection because it's a school intersection. So I just didn't want to have to back up onto a busy street near the elementary school near Burr, where the kids are crossing there. So we tried to keep the driveway or build the ADU and the garage with the existing driveway just for safety reasons. And then we fence in that area again to have the larger space yard. So if we had put the driveway there, I feel like we would have ended up losing a lot of the larger green space. And we did plant like 5 trees on that side, trying to, again, work with the neighbors behind us, the Sequists, to make sure that it was appealing to them as well.
Yeah,
But
you
I
did
understand.
definitely have thoughts about it, but as was pointed out, one of our criteria is to not, inflict adverse reactions on your neighbors. And they've spoken pretty clearly tonight that this location is creating an adverse action for them. And that is one of the criteria we have to pay attention to. So what do you think you would like to do tonight in terms of us making a decision on this project? Would you like us to go ahead and vote it? Or would you like to withdraw without prejudice and take some time to go back to these architects or other architects and try and rethink things that might fit a little bit more into conformity?
Yeah, I think given it's pretty clear which way this vote is going, I think we would withdraw. We are probably not going to continue to seek development of this
Oh.
just because.
Well, then we can deny it, or you can withdraw with prejudice. But if you want to think about doing this in a way, taking into consideration the input of all the counselors and the neighbors, that's an option for you. But if you don't think that's possible, then you can just stop the plan.
Am I allowed to
Speak
Also
into the
add-
microphone. Oh,
I guess
yes.
feel like we have the support of the three out of the 4 neighbors that are against our property, and would love to work with Rena to do something that's aesthetically pleasing, but we haven't been able to have her communicate with us. I think based on the screening, one thing that we could consider coming back with is adding in false windows, which we do actually have on our current house to have symmetry. So I don't know if that's helpful to improve the aesthetics of the 2 sort of white walled sides. We removed the initial windows, obviously, to try to address the privacy concerns, but I don't know if that would help with the aesthetics.
So it sounds to me like you are willing to make some possible changes to this. Ms. Mello and then Councillor Block.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, and going back to the site plan, that we also found that there could be other detrimental reasons or effects to doing the ADU on a different location, like the building of a new curb for a new driveway. We use the existing driveway in use for this new development. Also, looking back to the site plan, it is a very irregular shaped lot, so moving the ADU to a different location would create a more BC elevation to the house. Like the way this unit could be oriented would be a little bit more constrained based on the side yard.
You have all heard all the comments, and you can now have some time to go back and process it if you'd like to withdraw. Councillor Block, let's see what he thinks.
Well, first of all, I am willing to hold this item and to give the petitioner an opportunity to consider all the
There's that too, great.
discussions tonight. I think that would achieve the same goal as
Okay.
as what you suggested, and perhaps that would feel better for the petitioner and the architect. I'd just like to say that I fully understand the motivations of the petitioner and their desire to have an ADU. Everybody here supports non-conforming ADUs. Somebody, it was Councillor Irish, who said, the right building on the wrong lot. it does feel just so constrained by the shape of this lot, the dimensions that are available. And I think we are all sensitive to the very narrow side and rear setbacks, the very strong feelings of at least one of the abutters. And we have to take all of that into account as we decide whether to vote in favor or against the requested relief. I think there are some lessons here that I'm learning, maybe others are too. I think that the change in grade, while it's off the site of this property, I think that that should have been part of the formal presentation, that somehow everyone should know officially it looks to me approximately like a 3-foot drop from this property to the rear lot property. And while it may not be necessary for the petitioner to provide that information, I think that the planning department should, when there's a serious change in grade, that we all ought to be informed about that. What we do with that information, well, that's another story. But I was surprised when I visited this site to see that. So I'm going to move to hold. Thank you.
That
And-
is
and-
another
and-
option, which is like a continuation.
That would leave the public hearing open.
Yes.
Move to hold.
I just want to be clear, say with planning, that would mean that you have some time to go away and rethink some things. I'm not sure how drastically a plan can change and keep the same docket item. Ms., or even Andrew Lee, how much can change on a hold before it comes back to us and it still be the same project? I see you, Councillor Farrell. I see you, Councillor Roach. That's a question for planning or law.
Madam Chair, we deal with amendments to docket items, and as long as the relief that's being requested is the same as what was noticed, it would be appropriate. With that said, we would have to see exactly what change is being proposed before we can make a determination of whether it's appropriate under the current docket item. But so if there's a change proposed, we'll be doing that.
Okay, so a hold can work for now, and when it comes back, we'll see what's the appropriate way to proceed. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Lee?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, let's go back, Councillor Farrell and then Councillor Roach.
Thank you, Chair. Just really quickly, I would not like the notion of the extreme incursion into the setbacks to be lost, but that is a real concern and will continue to be. Thank you.
Definitely. Councillor Roach.
I
then
want
we'll
to
vote.
offer a path to yes, at least for my yes, which is the numbers of the are less important to me than the manifestation. So if there was a 0.6 and a 2.5 foot setbacks and it was done artfully and the neighbors were given an opportunity to engage and either didn't engage or engaged and found something that they found acceptable, the numbers don't matter to me as much as the manifestation. One of the important things that I think that is getting a little bit lost here is the ADU ordinance and frankly, the state appeal to the state liberalizing ADUs is to recognize that ADUs are going to have to sometimes fit in awkward places. And if that means, putting it in the other site and maybe not using the garage for the primary house or maybe making it an attached ADU. But I do think that in the between now and the next time we meet, somehow there's got to be some way of getting together with the 1 out of 4 abutters who feels like they have not been part of the process and make them part of the process. And I understand that you can only invite them in, and if it turns out that you cannot get a productive engagement, that's something you can bring back to us. But again, My concern is not with the numbers, it's with the fact that the incursion is such that it results in these blank walls, which just signal to me defeat. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that the owners and the architects have heard all these comments. We have also been joined by Councillor Cyrus Damubed, who is another councillor from this ward. He's on Zoom. He's just tuned in. I think that we are ready to vote to keep the public hearing open and to hold this. I hope that you guys have heard all this and can think about ways of coming back. I think that we will want to hear about grade changes in the future when we see a planning department report. I think that though you said some of your neighbors are in support, but there are some, or at least one that's not, and it would be nice, one that's not, strongly not. So it would be great if there was some kind of a kumbaya on that and a firmer plan for what that agreed upon screening was. And I think we'd like to know about the tree too. So let's take a voice vote on keeping the public hearing open. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? That's good. And now we have had a motion to hold this, so we don't need to look at any findings or conditions. Let's just take a roll call vote on the hold.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Irish,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Roach,
Aye.
and Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right. Well, I hope we see you back here for a third and final and successful time next time. And I'm happy to see that escape route. Okay, our final item for the night is really just a discussion item for the committee. It's not a public hearing. I'm not going to be taking public's comment. This is item number 224-26, which is requesting a discussion on consistency rulings. There are a couple of parameters that we need to follow for this tonight. When this item was first docketed, and the wording of it is very open, broad, and general. The Commissioner of Inspectional Services is here to explain to us about consistency rulings. What are the criteria that he uses? What's significant or de minimis? What we can't talk about tonight, because since this item was docketed, there is a project that is before another body in the city for consistency ruling. So we're not talking about specific projects, particularly about one specific project. We're talking in general about the process and procedures of consistency rulings as the commissioner applies them and as it relates to the land use committee. So Commissioner, go ahead. Thank you very much for setting aside tonight to come talk to us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are there any questions or?
Oh, you're jumping right to the end.
Your presentation has been so comprehensive.
All right. Typically, consistency rulings are applied through the NewGov system by applicants, owners of the home, their representatives, their attorneys. Typically, obviously, if there's a special permit involved, whenever there's a consistency ruling given, the petitioners upload the special permit, the approved plans, the proposed plan, and a signed letter saying what they're looking for consistency from me. Basically, I read all the information. I go through all the information that's submitted. I see what relief was given through the special permit. I review the plans that were approved for the special permit. And then I look at the proposed plans, the changes that are part of that consistency. Basically, I look at it, I see if the changes are consistent with what was originally proposed, so that they aren't they're not substantial changes that that would result maybe in either a amendment to the special permit or to see if if there aren't any substantial changes or any significant modifications that would make me give it a no for that consistency. There have been occasions, as Madam Chair knows, that I've asked for opinion through land use on, I don't know how many, maybe 3 or 4 consistency rulings, which the land use had opined on, and which I had then given my consistency for the project. Pretty much is what how it's done. Are there any questions?
Counselor Roach.
Commissioner, can you give us a few examples of the kinds of consistency rulings that petitioners seek? Are they seeking relief because they're going further into the setback, the height is
Mr.
greater
Lee, I'm going to call
expected?
on you next.
You know, the FAR, like where are you generally seeing the requests for consistency?
We're going to have a clarification of whether we can answer that question by Andrew Lee. Andrew, Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wasn't going to answer a specific question like that. I was going to speak a little bit more generally about the underpinnings of consistency rulings. I think it's important so that the City Council kind of understands the framework here. So consistency rulings are actually a product of the requirement in all special permit orders that the approved site plan, the set of plans they're approved, but the approval is consistent with the actual site plans that were submitted, meaning that it's not exact. It's just that what actually has to be constructed has to be consistent with those plans. And that's exactly what the Commissioner of Inspection Services is tasked with doing as the zoning enforcement officer. They need to make a determination if whatever is happening on the actual land is consistent with those approved plans. They don't make any consistency rulings with regards to conditions. They don't make consistency rulings with regards to relief that is granted. It is literally, this is a plan that was approved, and if there's a modification in there, is what is actually being built consistent with what was approved. So anything that is a significant change that is not consistent with those plans, those would have to be a formal amendment to the special permit. Everything shy of that, though, is within the jurisdiction of the Commissioner of ISD. The last note I'll make is the reason that determination is with ISD and not the special permit granting authority, the City Council, is because the special permit granting authority has to make a final approval, final determination on the plan. They can't withhold any sort of further discretionary review, which is why even when the Commissioner of ISD does come back to the City Council, they're coming just for a recommendation. It's much more of a, for the council's information, maybe also that for the commissioner to get some additional kind of feedback on the intent of what was approved in the plan to make a determination of, is it actually consistent? But when he does come back to the City Council, it is for a recommendation, not for actual formal approval. I hope that clarifies a little bit of the underpinnings of how consistency rulings work.
We are very clear on that part, and the City Council doesn't want to take away that power from the commissioner. We don't want to have that right. We understand that when he brings it back to us, it's a discussion and he takes it all as advisory and it's all within his capacity to do it. I thought you had said today, though, which is why I wanted you to speak to Councilor Roach's question, that you were advising us not to speak about any specific examples.
Well, we shouldn't be speaking about a couple things, and you brought one up already, Madam Chair, which is we shouldn't be speaking about the Union Country Day School where a consistency ruling was granted, but it's currently an appeal of it. It's pending before the ZBA. So not only should we not talk about the specifics, but of course, the actual scenario that the Commissioner of ISD had to look at in order to make the determination for the New Country Day School. You shouldn't be asking questions about, in similar circumstances, what has been done. Any sort of that analysis shouldn't be discussed at this particular meeting. My point with regards to not talking about specific projects is consistency rulings are so fact specific and it's so dependent on circumstances that even just a smattering of examples of consistency rulings that were done for particular process, it's not going to be really illustrative of how the process works and what the analysis is, because it's so varied, right? You have to look at the
So
specific
with all
site,
due
the specific plans.
with all due respect, Mr. Lee, if everything is unique, then there's really not much basis to have a discussion. I'm just trying to understand in very broad terms, what are the nature of the discrepancies that cause somebody to seek a consistency ruling, right? I mean, as you stated, a consistency ruling is necessary when the facts on the ground are definitively different than what the relief that was granted, right? And so I don't think there's anyone who argues, and I think Chair Kelly is pretty clear in her speaking on her behalf that we do not wish to have every special permit that is off by a foot or two here or there come back for an amendment to the special permit. So that the power granted to the commissioner to rule in these instances is not only reasonable, but I think essential. My question is, I'm trying to understand at a slightly more granular level than the generalities we've been talking about, what are the kinds of things that come up? Is it that buildings grow, they grow higher, they grow bigger, they grow closer to the lot lines? Like where do the facts on the ground, where are they inconsistent with the special permits, so that we have some sense of some better sense of the activity of the consistency ruling?
So, Mr. Lee, can the commissioner answer Councilor Roach's question about what are the types of inconsistencies or consistencies that he deals with in this?
He can in a general way. My point was that I did not say he can't speak about any particular project. I was just clarifying that when we had spoken previously, Madam Chair, that I was just making the point that it might not be as helpful as hoped. That's all.
Okay, Commissioner, go ahead.
So to answer your question, there have been instances where heights of buildings where they were not part of the relief of the project were higher than what was on the approved plans by 6 inches to a foot higher, although still under the 36-foot height maximum that I have made consistency rulings on, which I would consider de minimis. However, if there was a height on a plan where the building was 3 feet taller and still under the maximum height, I may ask for land use's opinion, even though it's still part of the, or still within the parameters of the building height, still lower than the maximum, but 3 foot higher may have been a concern or to maybe an abutter or somebody else during the special permit process. So something like that, I may ask for an opinion from land use.
Thank you. That is a fabulously instructive example. And I think that can give us some guidance about saying that we grant relief in certain dimensions and don't have any, and grant the petitioner, we are not negatively granting relief where they're not seeking it, right? So if they show us a building that's 33 feet high and they want to be 2 feet within the setback, right? We grant relief to 2 feet we have not by implication, I don't think, said you cannot go above 33 feet because you didn't seek relief to 36 feet, which is granted by right. So I think that it would be possibly make your job easier if we were clearer to say, we are opining only on the relief sought, and that by right, they have by right. And that would possibly, so I understand what you're saying is they presented plans and the implication is that they're going to limit themselves to 34, 33 feet. I think that that possibly might make it easier for you. I mean, if they're going further into the setback because of some condition on the property, yeah, you should be able to deal with that. But I think that worrying about the dimensions where relief is not sought is not it's not worth it.
Another instance would be if you granted relief because it was a non-conforming side setback, say, or rear setback, and you granted relief for the rear setback to be 12 feet. If it went any closer than 12 feet, I would probably ask land use for an opinion on that, because the relief is sought. The relief was for a specific amount. And if it's a minute amount going into the setback, I would still, because it exceeded the amount that was originally approved, but allowed for, to reduce the setback, I would probably ask for an opinion on that. However, if it was a conforming setback and they were in the setback, say, by even a half an inch or whatever, a minute distance, that would be a variance, and that would be something I could not allow, because it is they would need additional relief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lucas, did you have your hand up? I thought so. And then Councilor Block.
I'm the one who docketed this item. And just for the record, Attorney Lee, I have no intention of mentioning Newton Country Day this evening, okay? But I do have a question for you. And I think you might have hinted at it in your opening remarks. And that was, I used the internet. I Googled everything. I looked through the city ordinances. I tried to go through the Massachusetts general laws, and I couldn't find anything. I mean, zip on consistency rulings. So it's in the wording of the docket item. What laws, state laws, and city ordinances spell out or define consistency rulings?
It's not in statute or city ordinances. It's derived from the language in the board order and the plain language of what it says, that it needs to be consistent with the approved plans. So the way that it is utilized is, as long as the change isn't significant or substantial, it's deemed to be consistent.
So the language is spelled out in the council order. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
I have to go back and reread these council orders. I think we've ever, maybe it must be the standard language in the council orders. Is that right?
It's a standard language in the council orders. It's also consistent with virtually every other community. And again, I'm sorry if I said it too quickly the first time around. It's a little bit nuanced in the sense that it really is derived from that requirement where the land use committee and the city council cannot retain or suggest or condition the approval in any way. And if there were to be no avenue for this consistency ruling where the commissioner of ISD makes that determination of whether or not what is being built is consistent with those approved plans, then the effect would be that the special permit granting authority is in fact retaining that discretionary approval for any single change that came, that they'd have to come back to the city council for additional approvals. So it's derived really from case law and how that rule has developed. And I'm happy to discuss it with you more offline, because like I said, it is a bit nuanced, but the directive and the actual law itself is clear.
Okay, well, I will go through some past council orders tomorrow. I won't go through them tonight, just to make sure I understand the language that's in them, because that's the standard language, as you said, some things that we don't really talk about on land use. It's always the conditions and findings. Mr. Lee, are we allowed to talk about past consistency rulings?
That's fine. I just again want to make, I'm not personally involved in the appeal that's pending before the ZBA, so I don't know the details of it. So my strong recommendation and advice is if there are matters that are similar or appear to be similar to what is currently pending before the ZBA, not to discuss those. If there are other ones that are completely have no similarities, and it's just again to get edification about how consistency rulings work and how the Commissioner of ISD processes them, feel free.
Okay, well, it's about a detached garage on Lowell Ave. Commissioner, thank you for coming in this evening. Bring it up. I believe you were with the city in 2023, right?
Yes.
Okay. There was a consistency ruling in Ward 2, Newtonville, Lowell Ave. I don't know if you remember it. If you don't,
I think I do.
80 Lowell Ave about
It
a
was
garage.
probably one of my first consistency rulings.
It was 4 inches for a detached garage, and the department, I don't know, I think it was your predecessor, Mr. Lojack, who requested the advice of the land use committee on 4 inches.
I believe it was me.
It was you.
Yeah.
Okay. 4 inches? I never understood this one, and I never asked you about it. So I guess now's the time. Why did you seek the advice for 4 inches?
So just to give you an understanding, it was probably either my first or second or third consistency ruling. Now, you have to look at it from a point of view from where I'm sitting, okay? Land use or the city council has voted on a special permit. I really don't know what goes on in those meetings. Okay, so being a newbie and not sure of, this is all new for me. And so I was looking for guidance. I believe they exceeded, like you said, 4 inches. But there was in the special permit itself, it's almost like the example I gave. It was a specific amount into the setback. And the as-built plan showed that it was further than that. So I had opined the land use for advice.
Okay. All right.
So I know everybody here, and I see how it works. This is my first time ever at a land use and how you vote and how you do things. And I'm not apprised of that. I don't know what happens here. I don't know what are the sticking points. Like earlier tonight with the ADU that was, literally, 6 inches away from someone's property. So, if it was 5 inches away, would I then say something? I probably would. So,
Okay. So have there been since that project on Lowell Ave, have there been other
Yes.
consistency rulings around, call it less than a foot, that the department has deemed that they were consistent on their own without the advice of the land use committee?
yes.
Okay.
I believe there have been but I believe it wasn't, there was at least one, I know, if I can, I don't remember the address, where it was a little closer than what was on the approved plan, but it was still within the setback, meaning it wasn't a violation.
Was or was not?
Was not a
Okay.
violation. So, and in construction, things happen. Things aren't always exact, I can tell you that much. So that's why there are always, your as-built are usually always different than what was previously approved. I have the planners coming to me all the time saying, well, what do you think of this? you know, do you think there should be a consistency ruling? And I work with them and they work with me and, you know, we talk about what was discussed at the land use and I'll say, hey, have them apply for a consistency ruling, have them give all the information and I can make a decision from there.
Okay, thank you. This kind of goes into my next question. Because you said that, I think this is your first land use committee meeting?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you came early and
Yes.
had to sit through that then. Now you-
I was hoping you'd go to me first, but
You did. look at
No,
you
no,
both.
no, 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 no. After the land use committee, we don't take a vote. We discuss if the as-built is consistent with what was approved. Do you, or does the department, do you go back and watch the discussion? Do you read the report?
I have not. I will consult with planning and they'll give me pretty much the lowdown on what had happened at the meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, the only thing that I'd say is for consistency rulings, my opinion, I think you or the department should watch the recordings when they go up on YouTube, just so that you hear firsthand, nothing against planning, but you hear firsthand what the committee decided essentially.
Okay.
And what was discussed. I think it would help you and the department if you watch the recordings on YouTube or attend in person. You don't have to, but
I'd take that advice.
yeah. So
Committee reports might be a shorter way of doing that too. And also now that Curtis does them and he's very, very thorough. If you look at a report,
Okay.
it literally lists every topic that was discussed
Yeah.
by the public and that will take you less time than watching the
yeah,
video.
it's just that the report sometimes is, it's not published until a week and a half later, or
Not with Curtis.
but it doesn't go up on the website until a week or so later. Yeah, that's right.
He's pretty quick, but go ahead.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's all. I just wanted to say that, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Block, and then finally I'll be able to get to Counselor Albright, who has patiently been waiting with her hand raised too.
Thank you, Chair. This is either to the commissioner or to Mr. Lee. Is it, Commissioner, is it up to you to decide whether a consistency determination must be made, or does the petitioner, the owner, initiate that process themselves, I guess, after some discussion? Just exactly what's the procedural way in which consistency gets initiated?
It happens almost every way you just asked. I may
Okay.
be at the counter helping somebody who has a question about a special permit and they want to, whatever, they want to make a change. I'll ask what the change is. And I won't have the plan in front of me. I will say probably what you should do is either consult planning and get advice from them, or apply for a consistency ruling. A lot of times planners are reviewing the final as-built plans and they're about to close out the project. And of course, something has changed. And planners will either come to my office, we'll have a short little meeting and we'll go over, this isn't exactly the way it should be, but do you think this would be a consistency ruling? And then I would make the choice of whether, yes, if it's a consistency ruling, or if it's so minor that it wouldn't be a consistency ruling. I would more than likely deem it consistent at that point in time.
So it seems like a lot of this comes down to your judgment.
Yes.
which is where we want it. Don't get me wrong about this question, but would it help if there were some structure, some guidelines, some metrics to assist you in making this judgment, or not? I mean, have you thought about that?
I don't know if you could come up with guidelines or metrics for it because it's almost a comfort level
Sure.
that I have to feel. I don't want to sound like that I am the all-knowing, but I try to I read all the information that's given to me, and then I try to make the best decision I can make.
I'm sure that's the case. And I think we all have confidence in your ability to do that. What I'm wondering about is if, let's just say hypothetically, that we've approved a special permit with a 6-inch setback. The building is constructed, and it ends up being 4 inches instead of 6 inches. So it's a 2-inch difference, but on a percentage basis, that's a 1/3 infringement on this side setback. Sounds like you're comfortable and you think we should be comfortable with you just assessing this hypothetical that it's not helpful for us to go through the process of saying, you know, if something is affected by more than a certain percentage, that you should think about it as a consistency ruling or asking for an amendment. I mean, whatever. Anyway, that's,
I mean, I could give you the answer to that question already. That
Yeah.
to me would have been an amendment to the special permit if it was any closer than 6 inches.
yeah,
If it's already that close
yeah,
to the property line,
sure.
I would have sent it back for an amendment.
Okay. All right.
Even though it's only 2 inches, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to look at the whole situation where how close can you be to the property line? I was sort of happy you guys didn't vote for that. I'm sorry, but I mean, that's my own opinion. Okay, well, I was sitting here and I'm like, yeah, I'd be sort of angry if I was the person who disagreed with this. They have every right to say what they said, and I was hoping that you guys would agree with them.
Sure.
I know everybody wants ADUs and all that, which is great. But you know, we got to draw a line somewhere as far as I'm concerned.
We really appreciate the work that you do. I really mean that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Okay, I've got a lot of hands up. This is the order I'm going to go in. And now I'm adding another hand to the long list. And then I'm also going to speak to make the list even longer. We're going to start with Counselor Albright, and then we're going to go to Irish and Farrell, and then I'll move on to the other people on the list. That's the order your hands have been raised in. Counselor Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Lee, if I say anything that's untoward, of course, you'll stop me. I'm assuming. So in your introductory remarks, Commissioner, you said that you go to the site plan and you review the site plan to see if it's consistent or not to make your decision. Isn't that, have I got that right?
Are you talking the proposed site plan?
Yeah, whatever was
Yeah.
approved as a final site plan in the final conditions and so forth.
Yes.
So a site plan is often based on underlying conditions about how the property's, about what's happening on the property. It's a final site plan is based on everything that's decided on by the land use committee. And there are issues, whatever they might be, parking, transportation, landscaping, whatever they might be. The site plan is based on whatever the land use committee decides. That's the site plan.
You vote on the approved site plan, yes.
Yes. Now, if any of those underlying conditions change, and if you don't look at those underlying conditions that created the final site plan, aren't you missing something?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, all site plans, like I said, are inherently different whenever they are completed. So if you had an approved site plan that, we've had approved site plans for certain special permits where they've extended retaining walls 60 feet that I've sent back to the land use. And I also use the land use approval as a guideline too for future decisions. So what I thought might be an issue on one particular project wasn't an issue at land use. So I took the opinion of the committee and I approved that particular project, even though it was different than what was originally proposed.
Yeah, but I think you're missing my underlying question, which is if the conditions of all of the issues that were taken into account in creating that site plan, if some of those, let's say there were 3 or 4 issues that were taken under consideration by the land use committee, and those 3 or 4 issues created that final site plan, which was approved, if any one of those 3 or 4 conditions change, don't you have to look at all of those underlying conditions to see if the site plan is still appropriate?
I try to. I try to. Maybe I'm not understanding
So
your question.
I think I'm gonna have to, I can see Mr. Lee's hand is up, and I think I can't really go any further with this line of questioning. So, Madam Chair, I just want to say, I really can't ask any more of the questions that I would love dearly to ask. And I'm hoping that this committee would hold this item so that it can be discussed at another time, maybe in September, maybe in October. I don't know when it would be discussed again, but held so that I could ask these questions, which I think are pertinent.
Thank you, Counselor Oliver. But before you go and before I have Mr. Lee step in to say what he has his hand raised for, I just wanted to ask you, like, what type of conditions are you thinking might change between the time of approval and construction? Like, is there an example? I'm having a hard time visualizing. It's like not the grade, or what is it? A
So if there's
criteria or a goal or a physical aspect to the site, or what
Yeah,
kind of
I
thing are
don't
you
know if I'm
thinking?
allowed to say what I'd like
Oh,
to say.
okay.
mean,
Maybe you're self-editing in an appropriate way then, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if the use of the site is described in one way, and then the use is going to change, maybe the intensity of the use changes,
Oh, okay.
that could affect the site plan. And I'd best not say anything more, I
Okay.
think.
I respect your self-control. Mr. Lee, did you want to say something at this time?
Not anymore, Madam Chair.
Because she stopped. Okay, thank you. But thank you for being on hand to keep us honest. Counselor Irish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. And I've already learned an awful lot in this short amount of time about consistency rulings. I have 2 questions, more out of maybe curiosity. But have you noticed in your, it sounds like 3 years since you've been in this position, any change or increase in these rulings, consistency? I'm just wondering if there's something that's happening either by the planning or developer or land use or maybe not, but I was just more curious if you've noticed any trends, and if so, what type?
It's hard for me to say because I don't think I've been in the position long enough.
Okay.
But I do get quite a few consistency rulings. And I do talk to the contractors or developers or even the homeowners that come to the counter at the very end of the project. And then they're looking for a consistency ruling from me. And my question to them was, why didn't you follow the approved plan?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we thought this would look better.
Oh,
Or, and I'm like, well, you did go through the special permit process and it's pretty particular on what you have to do and what you're supposed to do and gets voted on. And now you have retaining walls all over the yard.
Mhm.
Okay? And yeah, I find those very difficult to approve. Typically, I send those back. And so I've had them come back with retaining walls 4 feet or greater, which I could never give a consistency ruling on anyways, because it's a zoning violation.
Right.
So that would be an immediate amendment right away.
Mm.
And then if that was the case, then, bring the whole thing back to land use for another vote, another. Yeah.
I have just one more related question. Are they tracked, or are consistency rulings or anything tracked, documented? in
They're
any
all
way?
documented. They're
And
all,
they're
in-
all-
yeah, they're all in NewGov.
In NewGov, and you can see,
So if you,
by-
if you go to a particular,
oh, it's by project, you can go down, but they're not all tracked on a consistency ruling database or something,
No,
or whatever
no.
like that. So I'm just was visualizing to see what type and where the violations were, I'm just kind of, but if you go to each
technically not violations,
or
but
correct,
changes,
right? So
non-substantial changes.
okay, so they're by project, but there's no way to sort of look at what's going on more broadly or more generally with consistency rulings.
It's amazing some of the things we see.
Yeah, okay. And the other one was about if there is any kind of rubric, but I think Counselor Block already raised that, if that would be helpful, but it doesn't sound like that would be too meaningful or assist you in any way. And then
It's almost different.
Yeah.
Some are very, I don't want to say consistent, but are a lot alike.
Yep.
But then there are some that are just so, how did you ever even come up with this?
Mhm.
So.
Okay. Right, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. and thank you, Commissioner, for being here.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's nice. What a nice thing to say.
Very nice.
Just thank you to the commissioner.
There aren't usually nice things said about me, so.
Okay, we're going to go back to.
I'm not talking about this body.
Counselor Maliki hasn't talked yet, even though on this one, she has not.
okay. I'm going to sound a lot crankier. So, okay, Commissioner, can you give us an idea how many of these consistency rulings requests come in a year? How much are they running?
I'd say 30.
Okay. And are they generally, like, what brings them to your attention? It sounds like a lot of them are the homeowner or the builder coming in and saying, hey, we did this differently. Is this okay?
Land use attorney or an agent like an architect would.
Okay. Are virtually all of them coming in that way, or some of them where a neighbor says, hey, they're doing this differently than the plan?
No, I haven't gotten anything like that
Huh.
from a neighbor saying that. Usually if that's the case and construction is ongoing, maybe we have the inspector go out there and take a look.
Okay.
We've had people complain about some that, hey, this isn't exactly what was planned. I'll review it. We do have a famous one that was a couple of years ago. That was a big.
959 Chestnut?
No. If you want me to say the address, I will. 20 Clinton.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, however, they were following the plan exactly as approved.
We won't get into that one. So are all of them or virtually all of them coming in before you've issued the final sort of
CO?
CO, yeah.
Yeah, they have to.
They have to. Okay. And if anything is found to be inconsistent after the CO, does that ever happen, first of all?
Not with me anyways.
Okay. Just going back a while.
I mean, you're saying if something was missed?
Yeah.
Not that I can see.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is going back a ways, but remember the windows that turned out to not to be windows at Chestnut Hill Square? Was that a consistency ruling or?
Chestnut Hill Square, when that was being constructed?
Yeah, they were supposed to have like real windows, showroom, in the stores along Route 9, and they ended up being fake ones.
That was before my time.
Okay, all right. So of the consistency, so 30 or so consistency rulings a year, and how many of them do you bring to land use for an opinion?
I've only brought, I think, maybe a handful to land use, maybe 4,
And
5
that's
at the most.
And that's in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the most recent one, I think, was 11 Florence,
Okay.
which were ready, that just came in for building permit.
Okay, and has land use always been saying, yeah, these are okay?
So far, yes.
Okay. But they're not seeing they don't know what they're not seeing, I guess, right?
I don't know what you mean by that.
If it doesn't come to land use, they never hear about it.
True.
Yeah, okay. So it seems like there's not a huge number. I would feel a lot more comfortable if you just sent to land use, when you got one of these requests, send it to land use and say, this is what's at issue. Do you want to hear it? And give land use the option of hearing it. Maybe they don't, maybe they say, no, that's fine. But I would rather the developers, the builders, the people who are asking sort of for forgiveness rather than permission, I would like to retrain them so that they know that it's not going to be as easy as it's been. Because the more that they feel that they can get by with, 6 inches here, 6 inches there, whatever it is, the more they're going to keep stretching the envelope, as it were. So that's just my thought, not on land use, but I would rather have more of a awareness of what's going on and slow the process down. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks. That's just her opinion, because we understand that it really is your discretion and your judgment involved. And I'll say on my behalf and on behalf of some of the members of the Land Use Committee, we don't really want to see more very de minimis consistency rulings come before us
I prefer not to do them at all, but
to have a long discussion. No, some of them are very important, and I respect that you bring them back to us for a discussion, and then you consider what we have to say, because I think you're taking our process very seriously when you do that. And I think we all appreciate that. I do want to speak to this, but before that, Councillor Roach and then Councillor Farrell had their hands up again.
So I want to build on Councillor Irish's point and Councillor Malachi's point. I think it would be useful. I'm not sure I agree with Councillor Malachi that we need real-time notice of requests as they come in, but I think it would be helpful, especially since it's not an overwhelming number per year, to get a quarterly or semi-annual report that says, here are the addresses, here's the nature of the discrepancy, and here's what I did. And then we can take a look at it, not so much to approve them or not approve them, but just have a better sense of what the landscape looks like and where you're drawing the line between the need to come to us and not come to us. So if we could get just some basic metrics and information, I think that'd be incredibly useful. And it may be that we decide, Councillor Malachi, looking at those, that we would like to see all of them, but I don't think we have a basis for making that decision yet.
Yeah, I feel like we're a little bit like the ER doctor or nurse. When things are before us, we know about it, but we have no follow-up capacity. Once we've approved something, once the patient has been released, we don't know. So something like that would actually be very interesting to some of us, though I'm cautious about putting extra work on the staff time that's not necessary. Councillor Farrell.
I'll say this, some of them are pretty minor. Okay.
We can track it. I mean, I think it's an interesting question that's been asked. I'm sure somebody can easily find out how many. My sense is that there have been far more than 4. I
Okay.
have sort of jokingly said to some people, we've seen more under Commissioner Ciccarelli in 6 months than we saw under Lojek in 8 years. That's the sense I had of it, and that's probably an exaggerated sense. But I think it might be interesting just to take a look at how many have happened. So
You take in mind too, with Mr. Lojek, he was here much longer than I was and probably before some of you were maybe even on the board. So,
he did not bring many before us. I've been on land use for 9 years now.
yeah.
We did not often have consistency rulings come to us from him, but I think it's an interesting process. And just let me clarify, it might be obvious, but it's only on special permits. It's not on any by right projects. A consistency ruling only applies to whether the project has met the conditions of the special permit, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Farrell. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't disagree more with my colleagues about this. I think we do our job and we've asked the commissioner to do his job and his inspectors to do their jobs. And when they've got a problem, because human nature is such that people are going to try and get away with some things or just make mistakes. And I'm perfectly satisfied that you guys are handling it. And I don't want to see it again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't think that we're having this conversation in order to step on anyone's toes or change it. I think we are just trying to understand what a consistent, this is a very new committee. And in fact, for me, who's been on this committee 9 years, I didn't even know there was an appeal process until last week. That's something we were not aware of. I didn't know that an appeal of a consistency ruling goes to the ZBA. I didn't know that. Now we have new information. Now we understand a little more about a consistency ruling. We did. I think we're just trying to understand what it's about, and he's come in. In fact, I had asked him if you have like a printout of your guidelines, bring it, and now I understand that doesn't exist.
And
I didn't know it.
any decision that I make is appealable.
Is what?
Any decision that the commissioner makes is appealable to the ZBA.
I never knew that the ZBA was involved in consistency rulings until last week. So the fact that this item was docketed is giving us all the opportunity to understand a little more about consistency rulings. Now we know that part too. So you're set with Councillor Farrell, you're all done saying bravo, keep doing, and I'm not sure that the rest of us are disagreeing with you.
With all due respect, Chair, because I was still talking, I think.
Excuse me?
I believe I was still trying to speak.
Well, I thought you were done. I'm sorry. I
No, I was-
apologize for that. I thought you put
There
your
was an
microphone
interruption,
up.
but thank you. I just don't, I'm hearing a sense that we want the commissioner or the department to start making reports to get back to us on this stuff. And I just don't think we should be adding to their work like that. If the information is online and we want to spend our time looking for that, then I think we should do that. We've got lots of things on land use that we really need to talk about that are much more substantive, in my opinion, than this.
Let me
Let's
know
just-
when you're done this time so I don't.
I am done now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we are asking for that report. I think that was a suggestion from 1 or 2 people. That is not coming out of this committee to ask you to report anything back to us or to keep track of it. I'm curious to see how many have been filed over time. I just want to keep this clear in my mind. What triggers it on your end is if there are any significant modifications or changes to the plan that was approved. That's when you decide you might step in, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. If the project is out of compliance with the existing plans, what do you do then? Like out of compliance with the existing conditions that were approved in a special permit, would that automatically register some action on your part?
I take everything into consideration. So I think we're bordering on what we're not supposed to talk about.
I'm just asking a question that could apply to any project.
Any project, it depends. It all depends what's going to be done. There are, let's face it, violations have to be corrected.
Great. Okay. I learned things from all of this. Again, I didn't know about the appeal process until recently. I didn't know that this language only exists in the council order as standard language, and it must be something that we like breeze over every week when we look at the conditions. We must just pass that over. I agree and support the role that you as commissioner have, that you use your own discretion and judgment. And when you make these, I appreciate when you come back to us to ask for our thought on the more important ones. I don't want us to have to deal with more insignificant de minimis ones. That's just me personally. We have not like polled our committee on that. And I, like everyone else, really appreciate you staying late at City Hall tonight to answer these questions and to give us a little overview of consistency. I think that was everyone. Has everyone who's had a chance to ask a question or make a comment had that opportunity? Councillor Lucas.
I move to hold this item.
We have a motion. There's no public hearing involved. Let's do a roll call vote if you don't mind on that. Let's just on holding this item, as one or two people mentioned, we may want to come back and revisit this with more particulars at another time.
Counselor Block,
I'll abstain.
Counselor Farrell,
No.
Counselor Irish,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Roach,
Aye.
and Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
The motion passes 4-1 with one abstention.
Okay. We are adjourned for the night. I'm not
Thank
a
you.
betting woman, but I was betting this might end early at 9:30 and it's 9:25. Yay.
Is that early?
That's early for us, don't you think? Again, thank you, Commissioner.
Recording stopped.
Welcome.